Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Rocket Summer 2024, a BookTube event where we're reading vintage science fiction. It's the brainchild of Michael K. Vaughan, needless to say. And it starts off at the origins of science fiction and moves its way forward, decade by decade, epoch by epoch, up to the year 1970. Which means that we've got 10 days left, so we are approaching the 1960s, which was a really fruitful time for science fiction as a genre, the books, the authors, everything, profile of the genre. But I have not been following that chronological route much at all. And last night I reread The Tomorrow People, and I didn't, or not last night, the night before last, I reread The Tomorrow People, and it was not worth my time. I did not like it much at all, and that was disappointing on two levels. One was, of course, it was disappointing to spend an hour with a book that isn't good with an author who can write much better than what she was doing. And it was disappointing also because one of the features of Rocket Summer 2024 that I have really liked is that I've been going back to these science fiction standards. Maybe not all classics, but standards that I read decades ago, that they've just been lodged in my memory, but they're fuzzed over with memorying and more remembering, so that they're not fresh. I need to reread them, in other words. If I'm going to keep thinking about them, I need to reread them. And I've been going back to a lot of those and having a great time of it. It's been wonderful. And this was sort of a check to that. The Tomorrow People was sort of a check to that. So I thought, to get that momentum back last night, that I would read something that is all but a sure thing. And when it comes to enjoying science fiction, I know the eggheads, the purists, the condescenders, the cognoscenti, who pretty much took over the genre after 1970, they will sneer at this. But nevertheless, in the genre of science fiction, if you want to read something and you want to really increase the chances that you will not be disappointed, you will read Isaac Asimov. And so I did. I went back last night and reread The Caves of Steel, which is full of world building. It's full of Asimov world building about an Earth in the future where humans still live there, but there are robots everywhere. Of course, we covered that with iRobot. And also, they live in a very controlled environment. They have just enough food to live on. It's a very controlled kind of space communism. They get more resources in direct connection to how much more they are perceived to contribute to the world. And that's largely okay with a lot of the humans that are on Earth. They've become very burrow-type creatures. They like having their homes, in domes or under the ground. They like the controlled contours. And this is very much in contrast to the larger and more powerful group of humans who have left Earth, the spacers, who've gone off to colonize other worlds. And they are far more recognizable as what we would think of as the human entrepreneurial spirit. They are far less structured when it comes to sexist roles in society, for instance. They're far more inventive, creative, exploratory, a far greater sense of independence, also far more powerful. They have far more resources and far better technology. And in Caves of Steel, the inciting incident, the plot, is that a very influential spacer is found murdered. And suddenly a detective, or a human detective, Elijah Bailey, has to solve this case, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it's extremely touchy. If the spacers were to take a real dislike of Earth, they could conquer it. So a lot is on the line here. There are a lot of political tensions here. And you can feel Asimov sigh with relief once he has sidled this world building into a whodunit, a murder mystery. If he had not made it big in science fiction, if he had not become such a foundational figure in science fiction, I believe he could happily have spent his entire life writing murder mysteries. He wrote a ton of murder mysteries anyway, but he could have done all of that. He had the plotting knack for murder mysteries. That's actually as much a weakness as it is a strength, because many times in a lot of his science fiction novels, He is trying to write a science fiction book that does not deal with the plotting knack, where the plotting knack is going to look a little bit old-fashioned, a little bit odd. And it does. There are plenty of times, even in the Foundation books, there are plenty of times where the Isaac Asimov, who is the, if you'll pay me $50, I will haul out my manual typewriter right now and write you a story. What a corker. Body found on a bench. That's just give me that, and that's all I need, and I'll give you 30 pages, and your fans will love it. That Isaac Asimov never died. Never went away. Once you become that kind of writer, it never quite goes away. Although, like so many other writers that I could name, oh my God, so many others, from Salinger to Pynchon. Most writers are ashamed that in the back of their closet, that writer is still there, saying, hey, you need to make a deadline, I'm right here, baby, boy chick. Asimov never lost that. That writer was always part of him, and always an active part of him. He had a refreshing lack of stupid shame. So you can feel him easing into this book once he makes it a murder mystery. And he goes even further because he gives another classic element of a whodunit, which is to sidle Elijah Bailey with an odd partner, so that you get the partner drama in addition to the clue-finding drama. His partner's name is Olivov. O-L-I-V-A-W, I think. Olivov. And he's a robot. He's not the usual kind. He's not the Robbie the Robot kind of robot. He looks like a human. He's virtually indistinguishable from a human. And there aren't many of those. But Bailey knows that he's a robot, and Bailey doesn't like robots. And a lot of humans on Earth don't like robots. They're saddled with them everywhere anyway. They're dependent on them, but they don't like them. So you've got that kind of heat of the night type thing going on, and there's all sorts of anachronisms there. This is, after all, a 70-year-old book, so there are all sorts of anachronisms, all sorts of things that Asimov himself was sure was so sure were part of human society that he doesn't even think about them. Doesn't even think that maybe they would not be present in the future, which is why in the Foundation books you have people smoking. In this book, you have people smoking. All of the old stereotypes of the 1950s, where the balding, late middle-aged tycoon is chasing his secretaries and they're running from him. That's just the nature of the business. Is that all the sexist ideas are everywhere here. They're all over the book. The case is awkward because the victim was a roboticist, so Olivov is involved, and so is Bailey, and they have to solve this thing under all of these hovering social and political pressures, and it's done really well. I really, really enjoyed it. I liked Caves of Steel a lot more now in the utterly unbelievable year of 2024 than I did the last time I read this, which was probably 60 years ago. There's a lot here. Asimov, he wears his faults as a writer proudly. Gotta give him that. It's chutzpah. He wears his faults as a writer proudly. If he feels like digressing for 6 pages about the Book of Elijah, or about Deuteronomy, or about perihelion, or sun flares, he will. And he knows what he's doing, because even in those digressions, you aren't going to leave him. He's too good at it. He's entertaining to read. Just nonstop, unfailingly entertaining to read. This book did even more to push me along the lines towards something that would be crazy to do. It would be Michael K. Vaughan style crazy to do, which would be if I were to make some sort of vow of a reading project where I read everything by Asimov. That would be Michael K. Vaughan level of insane to do that. I'm not yet thinking about doing that, but every time I read, and this is my second Asimov for Rocket Summer, you read one of these things, you just want to read another one. You just want to read something else that he wrote. It doesn't have to be science fiction. It could be a murder mystery. Although his murder mysteries I have largely found to be a lot less enjoyable. I think he likes the feel of broad open spaces when he taps into the science fiction register. I think he likes that a lot better. I think that's why he stuck with it when he could have been a multi-billion-dollar successful career as a murder mystery writer. I don't know. It's all speculation. I'd be able to inform that speculation a lot better if I had all the volumes of his autobiography, but I don't. But anyway, this was just what I needed. for Rocket Summer 2024. Exactly what I had, a minor stumble, and I came right back with an old period science fiction, this is an old Ace paperback. I used to have this, just like I had that paperback of the Tomorrow People. I used to have this, and loved it. Just loved it. Had so much fun. There's so much more going on here. I don't mean to make Asimov out to be anybody that he's not. I don't mean to give him any kind of airs as a writer. I'm not saying that he is a genius. There are flashes of something like genius in this book, but not with pace, dialogue, actual writing style, nothing. Not there. Asimov had a genius in Rube Goldberging your interest in the plot, so that you can't let go of the plot. If he had a genius, it was for grabbing the reader and holding on, even when the means he's using to do that are so hackneyed. I believe that Asimov had the exact same kind of genius for that as Stan Lee did. Again, these are all doctoral dissertation thoughts for down the line. The point is, it worked. Oh my, did it work. There's so much going on here. The world building, the character stuff, all of it. I just loved it. Maybe the humor fell flat. There's some humor throughout here that I'd never really been exactly on line with Asimov's very Brooklyn style humor. I've never exactly been in line with that, but all the rest of it, loved it. Just loved it. So I'm going to resist the urge to read another Asimov tonight. I'm going to do that. I want to give other writers a try, but boy, oh boy, did it work. This author will always work, for me anyway. So that is it. That is my Rocket Summer update. I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.